Hey guys, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and 2020 is off to one hell of a start when it comes to 4K. Hey guys, thanks for coming back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Ang Lee's newest movie and kind of technical marvel for a few different reasons. We've got Gemini Man on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. We'll take a look at the visuals, we'll take a look at the audio, or I should say take a listen, and then we'll break down the packaging and special features to let you know whether this 4K release is worth grabbing and whether it's going to be worth an upgrade over the Blu-ray. If you are interested in Blu-ray and 4K collecting, home theater, movies, anything like that, please consider subscribing to the channel. We are pushing to get to 50,000 subscribers, maybe by the middle of the year at this point. We've been moving so fast. So thanks to all who have subscribed, and if you haven't yet, please consider doing so. Like the video and leave me a comment letting me know your thoughts on this movie. Now with that being said, let's jump right into this review. So Gemini Man just came to me today from Paramount Pictures, and it comes out on January 17th. So I'm doing this a few days early, which is cool. I get to let you guys know if it's worth an upgrade. A couple things about Gemini Man before we start. First thing, it is a 4K digital intermediate. This is a real 4K title, meaning that it's not an upscale. It was shot at a very high resolution and finished at 4K. So we're getting a true 4K title. The other interesting thing is that it has a 60 frames per second frame rate. Now, what that means is it's more frames per second, right? So obviously, in a standard movie, I believe it's 24 frames per second. That's what most movies are shot at. And so in each second, you're getting 24 individual frames. What Ang Lee did with Gemini Man is he squished 60 frames into each second, which makes for a smoother motion. You'll see this online in YouTube videos. You'll notice when something is 60 frames per second, it looks a lot smoother to the eye, and the motion is a little clearer. So it's a very interesting thing. The last movie that did anything like this was The Hobbit, which I think they did at 48 frames per second. So that was double what's usually done. And now Ang Lee with Gemini Man has pushed that up to 60 frames per second. So that's a really interesting thing. We've got a real 4K, true 4K digital intermediate in 60 frames per second. Now I popped this in and I checked it out, and let me tell you, first of all, this is an incredible 4K release right off the top. The 4K digital intermediate is very important. Detail is incredible. Everything looks really nice. There's a few out of focus moments that I noticed, but for the most part, the detail is awesome. The HDR is also a noticeable upgrade over the Blu-ray. This is actually a very bright movie. It takes place in kind of a lot of bright tropical areas, lots of color, lots of the buildings are very colorful, and it takes place in a lot of areas where the HDR really helps those colors pop off the screen. And so in that way, it's a definite upgrade over the Blu-ray version without the HDR. Now, the 60 frames per second was really nice on the action scenes. I think it actually does add a little something where it smooths out the action. It's not as juddery. It's not as kind of shaky. You can really, tell what's going on when there's a big fight scene. But for the rest of the movie, it doesn't really add much to your viewing experience. It's a little bit smoother. You'll notice it, in a few moments, but where you'll really notice it is in the action scenes. And, is it a groundbreaking thing? Yes, because nobody's ever done this before. But there's a lot of video out there that is in 60 frames per second. So I don't think people are going to be blown away because they've seen this type of content before. They've just never seen it in movie form. So it's just kind of interesting. But I don't think it detracted from the experience. I think as long as you know what you're getting into, it's definitely going to feel a little different than a standard movie does. Your eyes are going to be, focusing a little bit differently than in 24 frames per second. You're going to notice the difference. But I don't think it detracts from the experience. If anything, it adds in the action scenes and in the other sequences where things are slower. It doesn't really take away much or add much. You barely even notice it. One thing that I was super curious about with this movie is the CGI, because if you know anything about the movie, basically there's an older version of Will Smith and a younger version of Will Smith. In the younger version, they did all in CGI. They used almost like that deep fake technology and de-aging stuff. What I was super impressed with was how good that CGI looked. The young Will Smith looked absolutely incredible compared to the de-aging they used in The Irishman, where I could tell, like, okay, Robert De Niro's face right now is super soft. You can tell it's a lot of CGI. It didn't look great. The de-aging here and the CGI they used is incredible, and the 4K really doesn't detract from it. Sometimes where the CGI is finished at a lower resolution, it gets really soft when it comes over to 4K. But here I thought it was incredible, and so that part of, that was more of a technical marvel to me than the 60 frames per second. 60 frames per second is cool, but what they were able to do with the CGI is groundbreaking stuff. And so that was really nice to see that it didn't, look bad in 4K. If anything, I thought it looked incredible. Now on the audio, this is a Dolby Atmos track, so you are getting some really nice audio when it's warranted. There are a lot of good scenes that take place with gunshots and explosions and bikes and cars and all kinds of stuff. Your typical action movie kind of sequences where the Atmos track is really good. It really adds to the experience. There was a ton of action from the surround sounds. There's one scene that almost made me jump out of my chair. A bullet kind of unexpectedly comes at you from the right, and before you even see the thing, you hear it. It was like very realistic. It made me jump because it came solely out of that right surround speaker. I mean, it just popped right in your ear. So it has some really good surround effects. Dialogue was very clear, and the Atmos height effects are great when they're in use, but they're not always in use in this one. So overall, the Atmos track is much better than a standard audio track, so I give it high grades for that. But I think the Atmos effects, the actual height effects, maybe not so much the object-based surround, that was pretty good, but the height effects could have been a little bit stronger in my opinion. But overall, this is still a great, I'd say 4.5 out of 5 for audio. Now packaging, we've just got a pretty standard 4K slipcover package. Sticker on the front, this is removable. The HDR sticker is not. I know some of you guys are sticklers for that. Here's the back of the case here. Opening it up, we've got the black 4K case, and then it does come with the digital copy, which should redeem in 4K, and then just regular standard disc art. There's nothing here. Black for the 4K and blue for the Blu-ray. Now, special features, there's actually a ton. So the film and the special features are actually all shot in 60 frames per second for the 4K disc. And there is an exclusive feature on the 4K, which is a visual effects scene breakdown, which if you're at all interested in the visual effects in movies, this was an incredible watch. It also has an all-new alternate opening, deleted scenes, and another hour of bonus content, which dive into some more of the visual effects and some behind the scenes, your standard kind of stuff. But that 4K special feature is really nice with the visual effects, and the fact that it is also in 60 frames per second gives you a really good idea of how exactly this movie all came together. So overall, Gemini Man, I would say, is a highly, highly, highly rated 4K release. I definitely recommend it over the Blu-ray. The HDR improvements are great, and that 4K resolution, you just can't beat it when you get a true 4K digital intermediate and you have a real 4K scan. It just blows everything else away. The colors were so great on this. And then the Atmos track, which I believe you're also getting on the Blu-ray. I actually didn't even check because yeah, so you do get the Atmos track on the Blu-ray. I just listened to it on the 4K, and it was, very good. That object-based surround is great, could use a little more heights. But overall, 4.5 out of 5 for this release. 2020 has been off to an excellent start between this and Joker. I swear I've already got like the top 2 of the top 10 list for the end of the year already in my hands, and it's only January 6th. It's kind of crazy to say that, but they've been pumping out some really cool 4K titles lately from Paramount and Warner Brothers, and there's more to come. So this is definitely, it's a visual treat regardless of what you think of the movie. It's a fun action film. I like Will Smith. It's not going to win any Oscars. It's not going to win any awards. The movie for me is probably like a 6 out of 10, but it's fun to watch. It's entertaining, and the 4K is reference quality stuff. So you're definitely going to want to go and splurge for that 4K Ultra HD disc over the standard 1080p Blu-ray. Thanks for watching this video. I will leave a link to purchase Gemini Man down in the description. If you do purchase through that link, you help support my channel. Other ways you can help support me, you can follow me on Instagram. Check out my merchandise. That'll be listed right below the video. And in the description, there'll also be links to other Amazon listings where I have things like my home theater seating, speakers, receivers, TVs, projectors, anything I use in my home theater, I list down there. If you're curious and you do want to make a purchase, that also supports me as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Definitely go grab Gemini Man on January 17th. Ang Lee and Paramount Pictures, they did an excellent job on this transfer. If you're just looking for a 4K visual treat, this is for you. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon. I've got some more 4K reviews. I just got a bunch of stuff in today that I need to do, as well as some giveaways and other cool stuff. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss any of those. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a great rest of your week.